Hello and welcome to my TTS tutorial for Bushido. We're going to be doing a quick and dirty tutorial on the basic controls, how to set up a game and how to get started. If there are any more advanced topics you are interested in, don't hesitate to let me know, and we'll try either to help you on via the Bushido Discord, or if there is enough interest, I will make a secondary video going into further detail. The prerequisite for this video will be that you have installed Tabletop Simulator on Steam. There are many guides already on YouTube on how to do that, which is why I'm going to skip over that step here. Feel free to just search for an installation tutorial on YouTube and you will find more than enough sources that go into way better explanations than I could ever do. So our starting point is now we have Tabletop Simulator installed via Steam. Now we can open Tabletop Simulator, but we can't play Bushido yet. For that, we need the mods that Bushido creators have made that use the Tabletop Simulator program to play the game. To do that, we're going to navigate to our library after installation, and we're going to find Tabletop Simulator. And under the Workshop tab, we're now going to be looking into Tabletop Simulator mods. To find Bushido mods, we're going to search for Bushido. And here already we can see the Bushido logo. We are in the right place. We are looking for Bushido Risen Sun 2.0 by Victarion, as well as the Bushido Army Builder 2.0 by Victarion. To install these two mods, you can click on them and then click on the button subscribed. I'm already subscribed, so I'm going to skip over this. Again, you're going to want two mods, that is Bushido Risen Sun 2.0 and Bushido Army Builder 2.0. Once you subscribe to both of these mods, they will be automatically installed. There's nothing more you need to do, and we can open the game. So we're going to go to our library, Tabletop Simulator, and press play. And of course, my PC is taking its dear time starting up the game. Here we go. Alright, this is the basic interface of Tabletop Simulator. The Tabletop Simulator program itself does have a tutorial that you can find under this button here. So if there are any basic controls you want to just look up on or any shortcuts you may have forgotten, I advise just using this button here to go into the tutorial for the game, and you can then brush up on anything you might have forgotten. So the first thing you want to know is how do we create a game, because from here we're not playing the game yet. Well, there's this great fantastic button create. We're going to click on it. You have the options of either doing a single player game. This is where you could test things out, but no one can join your game. A multiplayer game. This is the most standard way of playing Tabletop Simulator, as Bushido takes two to party. So we're going to just press multiplayer. So now I'm going to be the host of a server. I'm going to have to give this server a name and a password, and for this I'm just going to call it Tutorial Bushido, and I'm going to give it a password so nobody without the password can join my server. This is so you can limit the amount of spectators or people that just pop into your games. I've had this happen to me a few times, so I always advise just setting a password and sending it to your the players that you want to play with. In this case, we're going to be very inventive and just use the password 1234. The max players slider at the bottom here will allow the maximum amount of players to join the server. You need at least 2 to play a multiplayer server, obviously, and you can go all the way up to 10 if you'd like more players to join. For Bushido, usually 2 will be more than enough, but I usually just allow 4 if there are any people who want to spectate the game. Then I can give them the password and they can join the game by searching for the name, Tutorial Bushido in this case. It's a public server, so anybody can join who has the password, and I would allow my opponent as well as 2 spectators to join the game. And once we're ready, we just press Create Server, and we're ready to play the game. So now the game has just opened up an empty board, and it's asking us, what game do we want to play? Well, from the Steam Workshop tab, here are the 2 mods we just downloaded, Risen Sun 2.0 and Army Builder 2.0. We're going to go over Army Builder later. This is where we build our lists, where we create our lists. And we're going to open Risen Sun 2.0 with a left click. It's going to ask us, do we want to load the game? And we're just going to press load. And that's all you need to do. You're actually already ready to play the game. Give it a minute to load. This may take a minute or two, depending on how many items you need to load up for the first time, or when was the last time you loaded up the game. And here is the Bushido TTS mod. So let's start with basic camera controls. Through the W, S, A, and D keys on your keyboard, you can move the camera up, down, and side to side. And with your mouse, by using the right mouse button, if you click and hold, you can turn and pan the camera so you can see all of the board. And you can zoom with the mouse wheel button to get a better view of what is going on. Practice this and you'll be up to speed in no time. Okay, so now that we've opened the game, the question is, what am I looking at, really? In the middle here, we have our game board. I'm going to be making liberal use of a shortcut already, which is the tab button. And if I tap one tap of the tab button, I will make an arrow and it will point to what I'm referring to. This is also very useful during a game to let your opponent know what model you're pointing to, or where you might be wanting to move, or that piece of terrain over there. So remember, tab, one press of tab to set up an arrow. And in this case, I'd like you to look at the Bushido game board. This is where we're going to place our minis and our terrain, and this is where we're going to play the game. Then we have two sides to the table. You can see some blue things on the top and some red things on the bottom. These are players red and blue. There is no difference between those players, and they're just their sides where you have some space to sort your things, put your cards and your minis, which we'll get to later, and then be ready to play the game from. Let's take the side of perspective of player red. So how do I become player red? How to do this is on the top right, I can see my name and any other people who would have joined. And I click on my name and I change my color. I want to be red. Now I see some circles bouncing around. These are the different players that I could be. Let's quickly go over black and gray. Black is a game master. This isn't really that useful for Bushido. Some games require the management of hidden information, like a role-playing game like Dungeons and Dragons, for example. But we don't need that. We only need the players, blue and red, as well as the gray spectator function. This is quite useful if you'd like someone to join your game and spectate, and maybe you have some friends who'd like to, see the game you're playing currently, or a more experienced player maybe giving you some advice on the side. They can use this gray spectator function. They won't be able to interact with the game board, but they will be able to move their camera around and have a look at everything. The players are red and blue. We're just going to choose red for the purposes of this tutorial. And you will notice that while these blue boxes are still opaque, these red boxes have become translucent. This is where we have our hidden information. So our dice pools, our flanking and vim information, and we'll get to that later. And now, as this is the red side, this is where we would place our models, place our cards, and to keep track of all the important things we need to keep track of. As you can see here, we have a VP counter and an SP counter. If we zoom in a bit further, we have some very useful shortcut tables for the success level damage table, or the ranged attack challenge number, always very useful. We have some dice here, and we have a lot of markers. Obviously, Bushido has many states, and we're going to need a lot of these markers. For example, we have the prone marker here, the run marker here, immobilized, held, reload, and so on and so on. You have your bleed, fire, poison, and most markers that are in the game are already here. Those that are missing are on their way to being introduced to the mod, so just hold tight, and the creators of the mod, Victorian and Aiku, they're getting around to it. They're amazing people. Send them your love on Discord. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. And yeah, just have a little bit of patience. This is all fan-made. This is not official, but everything is coming. And furthermore, we have activation tokens, obviously very important, pass tokens, some wound tokens and key tokens, although I don't use them for that purpose. Right, down here in the bottom, you have a rulebook that you can flip through by pressing the arrow keys, as well as some tournament rules if you want to check up on some missions. They aren't the newest version, but they are good enough to just see, oh, if I'm playing reorder, what is it about? How do I score? Always refer to the newest tournament and rules documents that you can find on the Discord, so that they're the most up to date. But this is good to just have a quick check on something you may have forgotten. At the same time, oh no, we'll go into that later. Right, the next thing I'd like to talk about is moving models, because, well, this is what this is all about. Let's just grab, I don't know, we'll grab some Ryu models and cards. Doesn't really matter. Oh, Kumiko is a fantastic model. Let's take Kumiko and her card. Here we go. And we'll bring them over here. How did I do all of this? You can select items by clicking and holding the mouse button. This will pick items up. And what I did there to select multiple items was I pressed left mouse button and dragged a box around the items I wanted to select. And then I can move multiple things at the same time. To rotate items, you can use the Q and E buttons on your keyboard. So for example, I just turned those and now they are straight up again. And here we can see the Kumiko's model. It's just a small little printout basically stuck on a base, and her card. To see the other side of the card, there are two options. The first would be you can flip the card with the button F. That is F on your keyboard, and it will flip the card, and then you can go in close and read the card. But this isn't the cleverest way to do this, as you'll be moving your camera a lot. A much more elegant way of doing this is hovering over any item you wish to see more closely and pressing and holding the Alt button. This will bring it up, blown up into your screen, and you can have a look at what the card does. And if you want to see the back side, you keep holding Alt and then additionally press Shift, and this will show you the back side of the card. And if you let go of Shift, you'll see the front side of the card again, and the back side. So that's how we look at cards, and we can just hold them down here, all of our cards, so that they don't interfere on the game board, they're not in the way, while the model will be somewhere on the board. To move models, and I can obviously just pick it up and drag it, but how far did I move it? That's not going to really help us if we're playing Bushido, which relies heavily on accurate measurements. So what we do is we use a measuring function. So in the same way that we picked up our model with left click, we left click and hold, and now we hold the tab button to switch to the measuring ruler. And now if we drag our mouse, you can see that the game is automatically showing the path at which you're moving and the distance your model is moving. So Kumiko has a move stat of 4, so I can move her 4 inches and let go of the left mouse button to place her in the new location. To rotate her into the correct facing, I can use the Q and E keys so that she doesn't get attacked from the back. This is something I would practice a few times just to get the hang of it. So left click and hold is to make a model float in the air, holding tab to enter measurement mode, moving the model while holding down both buttons. Let's just say I want to move 3 inches this way. Maybe I want to rotate her, so I can use Q and E and then let go of the left mouse button to place her. If I want to let's say I've moved her and I was like, oh no, I want to move a different model maybe, then while I'm holding down all the buttons that I'm holding, I can press the escape button to let go, and then I can release the left mouse button. I'm just going to quickly copy and paste this model so I can demonstrate how this would work, for example, in a melee. Copying is you hover over any item, Control C, and then Control V at a new location to paste it. And to delete any item, you hover over it and delete it with the button Delete on your keyboard. Let's say I want to bring Kumiko into contact with this imposter Kumiko over here. What I would do is I pick up Kumiko, enter ranged mode, and start moving towards her. Now, I can't really see here when I'm in base-to-base contact. So what I could do is additionally, in addition to holding down the left mouse button and the tab button, I'm now going to hold down the right mouse button, and this will drop her down to the floor, and I can still move her, and I can slowly move her up into contact. Let's see, was that accurate? I'll just take my Well, that looks pretty good. And they've gotten into melee, and then I can rotate the models if needed to face them properly, and then we can have our melee. One thing to be careful of is that everything is movable currently. So if I do this, I pick up Kumiko, go into measurement, and shove her around on the ground, I can shove items, and I can shove other models out the way. To stop that from happening, what you could do is press the L button while hovering over an item to lock it into place. Now I can't pick it up, I can't interact with this model, and I can only interact with non-locked models. That is again L to lock an item. Now they're both locked. And if I want to unlock it, I hover over it and press L again, and they're unlocked again, and I can move them. This is very useful for locking down terrain pieces, which we'll get to in a minute, as well as if I want to be very accurate and want to make sure I'm getting into base to base, I'll just lock the model I'm selecting for my melee action, and then I can move it into base to base, let go, maybe rotate a tiny bit. It's not perfectly accurate, as you can see here in 15-degree increments, but it's good enough for any purposes, and if you talk with your opponent, it'll be fine. And then hover over and unlock Kumiko again, so everything is back to normal, and then we can fight. So those are the basics of moving. I would highly recommend just testing that out a few times just to get the hang of it, with using the left mouse button, tab, and the right mouse button to stay on the floor. So once you get the hang of it, then it gets a lot quicker, and you can be rather accurate with a little bit of practice. One thing to look out for is that the game is going to try and always move you in a straight line. And sometimes that's not what Bushido is asking you to do. Sometimes you have to go around some terrain or around a model or what have you. In these cases, what I would do is you could measure out steps. So say 1 inch here, and then press one tab button to make an arrow where it is, and then measure another, and that's 3, and then 4. So I would get to here. This isn't the most accurate. It might be okay, but I would prefer just moving the model in increments. So that was 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, 3.1, and another 0.9, 4 inches. This is a much better way of doing it, in my opinion. And another way would be to start copying and pasting multiple models. If you know the base width, then first you can see, do I fit through an area? And as well as, let's see, how thick is this base? Snapping is enabled, but I think it's 1.2 inches roughly. And then I can start extrapolating from there. But the easiest way I find is just to move in 1 inch increments or any smaller denomination thereof. And as long as you're counting along, then your opponent knows that you're not trying to, gain an extra inch somewhere. I know we men always want to gain an extra inch, but in this case, I'd prefer it if everybody stays true to the original measurements. Okay. The next thing I'd like to talk about is model states, and not the Bushido states that we're talking about. We're going to come to them in a second, but rather once I hover over this model, you may notice that it says 1 out of 3 Takashi Kumiko. Oh, why is that? So this model, there's a very clever thing you can do on Tabletop Simulator called model states, and you can switch between them using the numbers on your keyboard, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. In this case, 1 to 3, as there are 3 states on the model. And if I press 2, I'll bring up its second state, and we can see here, this is a 1 inch zone of control. How useful. So we can see when we're moving, how close can I get without entering a model zone of control. This is a fantastic way to, keep everything accurate. This is one of the many things I actually prefer on Tabletop Simulator over real life games, is in more complex situations with multiple models. It can be incredibly easy to see where the zones of control are and what model I can engage and what model I can't engage. So in this game of Imposter, we can now even see that this Kumiko here can probably not even engage this Kumiko because she's probably going to hit, yeah, she's going to touch one of the other zones of controls first, which isn't really that obvious on the tabletop. But here, this is a great way of seeing where you can go and where not to go. And if you want to get rid of it, you just press 1 again, and the state reverts to the form we've been seeing so far. Then there's also a third state that not only has your zone of control line, but also the back arc marker. So you can quickly check, am I in its back arc for a surprise attack? Do you have line of sight to a certain model? And again, this is state number 3. State number 2 is just the zone of control, and state number 1 is no additional information whatsoever. These are fantastic little functions, and I highly recommend getting used to them. Once you have a little bit of practice, it makes the game a lot quicker and more accurate, in my opinion. Okay, let's get rid of some of all these models. Now, when we're playing the game, obviously, we have activation markers, and we need to spend them on our simple and complex actions. There are many ways to track this. As long as you and your opponent both know why and what you're tracking, it's fine. So usually we use these tokens here for activations. Either you could use this side for, oh, this model has 1 activation left, and flip it to show, oh, it's exhausted. But what I also like doing, what I have seen, is using 2 markers, and then removing 1 once you've done one thing. Let's say you move 2 inches here, then you remove 1 marker, and a secondary action here, and then you can remove the second one, and now it's exhausted. And you can move these markers close. You can even stack them up. And if you look closely, you can see them stacked. And if you mouse over them, you'll also see a number 2. So it's a nice, quick and easy way of cleaning up and just seeing how many activation markers there are. And let's just say I've been stunned by some sort of effect. Then along the edge of the board here, I'll search for the stunned effect, which is over here. And with left click and drag, I can pull out a stunned marker and just put it close to my model, just as I would on a tabletop. And I can do with this stun marker everything that I can do with a model. I can press F to flip it like a card. I can use Q and E to rotate it, and I can move it with my mouse, just as before. And once it's gone, I could either hit delete to get rid of it, or just put it back on the pile of stunned, and it'll return. However you'd like to do it, it's up to you. It's not really difficult to do. And let's just say, oh, I've got a poison marker. Then here we go, 1 poison marker. And if I have a poison 2 marker, what I like to do is stack it up. So I have 2 poison, or 2 1 poison markers. Then I'll usually keep them separate so I can keep track of it. What you could also do to not clutter the board is just put it next to the card. You have a nice space here. Might as well use it. You could also put your activation counters there, but I prefer putting them next to the models so it's easily visible to my opponent where I still have activations left over. And this moves in fantastically into the next part, which is tracking a model's wounds and ki. My preferred method of doing this is using these little buttons over here. We can see there is 1 red one and 1 gold one. And what I like to do is I select both of them and Control C to copy these and Control V to paste these next to a model. I think that's a bit off. Let's delete them. There we go. That looks a lot better. And now I can, with left and right click, tick these up and down to show how many wounds in red and ki in yellow that this model has. So let's say in this case I had these 2 poison 1 markers at the end of the turn. I'll take 1 poison as per the rules. I'll just get rid of that one. And then I'll tick down, for example, 1 wound. Other players like to start at 0 wound markers and then tick up, like as if I'm crossing off on the physical card. Either or works fine as long as you and your opponent know exactly how you're counting it. Anything goes. You do whatever works for you, just inform your opponent. And obviously with multiple cards, you can just make multiples of these trackers and just add the cards below and keep track of all your models that way. Now we have the SP counter and VP counter. For anybody familiar with scenarios, this is quite quick and easy to understand. Again, with left and right click, I can tick these up and down, and this helps us, just keep track of how many SP and how many VP a certain player has. And the blue side has their own counters that can be ticked up and ticked down, so you never lose sight of how many SP you need to gain to make a VP happen, or what the current score is. And in the same vein, there's a round counter here on the side, very helpful. We can tick it up, maybe down, but tick it up and just make sure we're on the correct round counter. Okay, those are the most basic of controls, but we still need to know a few more things to know how do we play the game. So let's just say we've come into a melee exchange, because these are always the most fun for me in Bushido, and now we want to fight. So in this case, this would be Kumiko versus, well, her mirror image, and these are two 4-dice models. Every player now has these hidden information boxes where we can secretly allocate our dice pool, as well as any special attacks and defenses. And looking at Kumiko's card, again with Alt, so it blows it up and I can just have a quick look without having to zoom my camera, I can see, oh, she has critical attack 1, push defense 0, push attack 0, and counter strike defense 0. So let's just say, oh, I'm going to be very aggressive here. I'm going to put 3 of these red attack dice into my dice pool and 1 defense dice, so I don't get blown up, hopefully. And I want to use one of her special abilities. Let's just say, for example, I wanted to use push attack. Then here are all the special cards, and with Alt, I can mouse over them and see which cards there are. The same as possible if I move my mouse to the bottom of my screen, this will bring these cards up as well. These are the same cards. And let's say push attack, I want push attack. Then I'll grab it and drag it onto my special cards pile and inform my opponent that I'm ready, and they will do the same over here with their cards and dice. And when we're both ready to reveal, then we can press this button and this will bring up the information, and we can see, oh, for example, our opponent has set 2 defense dice, 2 attack dice. Blue players' attack dice are in purple, defense dice are in black, and usually. And now we can roll the dice. How do we roll these dice? You select all of the dice you'd like to roll, which is usually all of them, and then you press the R key for roll, and it will roll the dice for you. So now we can see, we have a 6 in defense, that's fantastic, and a 5, 6, 7 in attack. This is amazing. I'm not even sure we would like to prowess this, maybe if we're very greedy. In cases where a die is cocked, let's try and manipulate that. Failing, but if a die is cocked, you can always mouse over it to see what value it has. 3 attack dice, 4 attack dice, 5 attack dice, 6 defense dice. And let's just say I changed that to 2, now it's a 2 attack dice. So if anything is unclear, you could either re-roll or just mouse over with your mouse. Just inform your opponent if you'd like to re-roll a cocked die. It shouldn't be a problem as long as both players are just communicating as on the table. Same rules apply. So this is how we would roll our dice. And while we're over here, we have 2 more boxes for the very important model and flanking. If we want to, if we have a scenario, where we use a Vim, a very important model, we can right-click this card, and at the bottom, we have a description box, and we can write here, for example, oh, it's Kumiko is our Vim model, and now we can see here Kumiko is our Vim model, and once we need to reveal this information, we press this button, and this will reveal the box to our opponent. As you can see, it's opaque right now, that our Vim model was indeed Kumiko, and this is also where you can write down at which round your Vim died, if that is necessary as a tiebreaker, without the opponent knowing that you've done so. If you need to obscure this information, just press the button again. For example, with the dice, once you've finished your dice, then just hide all the dice again for the next melee exchange, and you can put your card back. Push attack goes here, I think. There we go. And the same for flanking information. If there's flanking information, I can mouse over the flanking card, right-click, move down to the description box. Say flanking model will be, I don't know, let's say Kumiko again has somehow gained flank. Round 2, my left board side, my left side. So in round 2, then on my left, this is where Kumiko would be arriving from. Here's a Kumiko model. And I can reveal this information again by clicking the button and obscuring it once that is no longer necessary. If I have multiple turns where cards are coming in, I would recommend copy pasting the flanking card. Oh, it's locked. There we go. Unlock, copy, paste before the game. Let's just get rid of those. There we go. And then I can stack them up over each other. Just be aware you have to be rather exact. The box is quite small. And now I have 2 cards. And I can use one for the round 3 and one for round 2 and then stack them above each other. And once the round 2 is over, then I can move this out and I'll have my round 3 information hidden here. That's basically all there is to the hidden information boxes. So left click dragging to assign dice. If we need more, obviously copy paste is your friend. Let's just say we need more attack dice because we're wild and we've got lots of dice in our pool. Now we can add in even more dice, and I'm sure we're going to need more defense dice somewhere down the line. Let's add in some more defense dice, and we can roll a lot of dice very quickly here. So let's just move all of these dice in there. Whoops, our opponent could see those. And now, once we reveal our dice, we're like, haha, take that. Roll all of our dice with the R button, and here we go. Now this is slightly cocked, but we can mouse over and see it's a 3. And yeah, obviously if you want to clean up again, then you can delete items. Let's say I was a bit overzealous and I delete all my dice. No, never fear, you have more attack and defense dice over here. Just drag them out and then bring them over, and you can copy paste these and you'll have more dice than you can shake a stick at. There is one single dice over here. This is what we usually use for the tactical roll. If you mouse over it, it also says tactical roll dice, so you can just roll it over here. And, sweet, got a 6. So tactical rolls are on fire, as we can see. Everything going amazing. Okay, now with the basic controls out of the way, the question is how do we set up our game? Because, well, an empty board isn't really fun to play on. And also, well, what about scenario zones and idles? For that, we're going to move over to the side of the board over here, and we can see some bags. And if we mouse over them, we can see what missions correspond to what bags. So, for example, here, Kei, Ninki, Depletion, Muzukashi. We can, if let's say we're playing Kei, then we can press this place button, and it will place the correct idols in the correct positions. And let's say if we've made a mistake, that wasn't the mission we wanted to play, then we can recall these items and maybe, we wanted to play only 3 idols, so we'll play these ones right over here. Once they're placed, I would advise locking them into place with the L button so they can't be moved, as they are supposed to stay there. And if it is a decreasing mission and you need to get rid of one, then you can unlock it and then remove it with the delete button. And the same goes for all the other missions. Here we have our control zones with the idols, or here we have the 3 control zones for Ryodo, and so on and so forth. So just mouse over the correct mission, place with the place button, and recall if you've made a mistake, and you'll have all of your missions in place. So let's just say, what do I know, Ichi no Riten, that's a fantastic mission. Let's use those, and they're already colored to show the player who owns which zone. So blue side obviously has the blue zone, and red side has the red zone. And if you ever need to recolor any item or zone or whatever, right click it, and you can color tint here and change it to any color you'd like. So if you've both bought a green Takashi Kumiko, now you can have a yellow one and a green one, and it's obvious whose is what. Just be aware that if you change the state of a model, these need to be changed as well. So go through each state and just color it so that you have the correct color tint. And now you can play with different models that, while they are the same, they are visually distinct. But we're also going to need terrain to play our game. We can find terrain in the purple and the green bags over here. The purple has more buildings and small crates and items, and the green one has plants and bushes and rocks and all that good jazz. To see what is in there, we can right-click the bag and press search, and this will bring up all the items in here. So we can see there are some trees in here, there's some ponds, there's a tilled field, there's a nice big rock. And if we see something we'd like, whoops, we don't want to search, then, oh, I like this tree, for example, then we can pull it out and we have some trees here, or maybe a pond, I like ponds, and here's some boulders. And now we have some terrain pieces that we can place onto the board. Let's say I like these, oh, these boulders look great, for example. Then I'll attempt to place these boulders here. And now we can use the measuring function by holding tab to see if we are 3 inches away, as these are impassable. They were not 3 inches away. That looks better. And they're also 3 inches away from a borderline deployment zone in this case. Excellent. And we can move it around. Again, make sure. Oh, I moved it too close. That's a bit more exact. There we go, 3.1. Let's say I'm happy here, and then I can press L to lock it in place so that it can't be moved. And now my opponent's turn. Let's just say, oh, they want to look in this purple bag. Oh, there's a lovely little well here. That's one item that I enjoy a lot. And the same thing goes. Oh, let's say they want it over here. I don't know. And they can lock it in place. It's your turn. Oh, I like trees. Let's knock down some trees. And so on and so forth. There is new terrain on its way, because these trees are not easy to move through, as you might notice. They aren't the best. There are trees that work. So if you want trees, I highly recommend either using these singular trees or this tree patch. There's a high grass patch here that are fantastic. These dead trees are a big favorite of mine because these already have states. Just like models, we can press the number keys 1 and 2 because it has 2 states to remove the trees and lock it into place. And just to recheck, we can always, even though it is locked, with a 1 or 2 button, bring back the trees. And then if we want to play here now, we can easily move Kumiko into these trees. And we know she's in difficult terrain. So the ones without states, I would try to avoid for now. Don't worry, they are being replaced with these better trees. Oh dear. Kumiko's in a bit of a pickle there. That have control zones on them. There we go. So yeah. And then place your terrain to your heart's content until you're happy as per the rules. Then set up your lists on your borderline deployment. Let's see, am I? Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now I've got my baseline deployment set up, and we can start playing the game. Let's just, that's totally baseline deployment. And now we can start playing a game. Let's say I've gotten the first activation. Here I have my 2 activation counters, and I'm going to run. Then I'm going to pick up with left click and hold. Hold tab to go into measuring mode. Let's just say I'm going to run 6 inches this way. I'm going to let go. I'm only going to move in 1 activation counter because I've used the other one. Let's say I'll drop it over there. And I'll grab a run counter to show that I've run. So I have -1 melee dice, but I'm harder to hit from shooting. And then it's the other player's turn, and they can do whatever they'd like. Say player blue is going to run this way, 6 inches. Oop, there we go. And turn to face the direction of running. And the same thing, they're going to want an activation counter, not Kumiko, and a run marker. If anything wild should go wrong, let's just say, oh no, I've deleted this pond by mistake. There is a rewind function here that you can just press once, and it'll bring back everything that happened within the last 10 seconds or so. So if something's gone wrong like 30 seconds ago, maybe press it twice or something, and then you can clean up everything that was fine. For example, getting rid of that extra Kumiko, and now we have our pond again. So don't worry about making mistakes. It's very easy to fix. Just use the rewind button to make sure you can go back in time and fix things. Right. At this point, I think we're done with basic controls. Feel free to jump back and forth in the video to just go over all the basics. The most important is moving, which is left mouse click, tab to hold, and then right mouse click to go and just slide it around to make sure you're getting into close combat correctly. Make sure you lock opposing models if you want to really shove up to them so you don't move them out of the way. So in this case, boop, 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 boop. And I can already see I can't move further, so this is close combat. Excellent. Now I'll unlock Kumiko again and turn to rotate her so we can fight. Otherwise, your camera controls with WASD and the right mouse button hold to pan your view, zooming in and out with the mouse wheel. And yeah, that's about it. Now we're going to go into building your lists. To do so, we are going to switch to the Army List Builder. Yes, there are all the cards and models here on the side, but that won't be the case for too much longer. There are multiple reasons for that. You can ask Victorian and Aiku, excuse me, as to why, but it basically boils down to they want it all in one place so they can just update the cards when something happens and they don't have to do it again over here. And instead, they're going to set up some demo lists, so you can just grab a quick, 70 rice list, for example, and just play a game with your friends to demo the game. Or if you just want to get a feel for a faction or some models, while the lists we're going to build in the Army List Builder. To do this, we're going to go into Games, we're going to switch the game, and we're going into our Bushido Army Builder 2.0. We're going to load it up, and again, this might take a few minutes depending on when was the last time that you've loaded up the game, and whoop, there we go, loading complete. And we just get an empty table with all of these army bags, these symbols. These are bags where all the items are inside. For example, 102 Jung Pirate items or 101 Ito Clan items. And again, we have the recall and place buttons, which are really, really awesome. So let's just say, oh, I don't know, we were looking at Rio, so let's just place the Rio items. Now they're all going to get placed. The game is going to load them up. This might take a minute if it's the first time of loading them up for you. And now you can have a look at all the models and cards that are available to the faction and build your list. Let's just say, oh, I like the look of this guy, then I'll drag him out to here, and maybe this Isamu guy, he looks cool, and sure, you'll do. Everybody likes a flag. Then I'm going to want a theme or something, so here are my themes. There are, as you can see with the number 3, these are stacked, so I can right click to search them, 1, 2, and 3, or I can just drag them out. This also works very quickly, and I can see which themes are available. Now there are more cards here. This would be one that is probably better to search. And I can see all my event cards here stacked up. The enhancement cards, 14. Well, I'm definitely going to want to search those by clicking on the search button, bring up all these cards to see what enhancements there are, and then there's equipment. And for Ronin cards, once I'm finished here, then I can check my Ronin cards over there to do the same thing. I can place them. Let's just do that. Boop. Place. This is going to take a little bit longer because there are more items in there, and it's been a while since I've looked at the Ronin cards. Here we go. And here are all my Ronin faction models and cards that I can use to extend my list. But let's just say these 3 will be my list, as an example. I'm doing a demo game with a friend. To save this list, what I'm going to do is going to drag a box around all of the items that are going to be in my list until they're all marked. And I'm going to hit right click somewhere and go to Save Object. Now I'm going to give it a name so I can find it again. Let's say it's Demo Ryu for some reason. And I'm going to save it in a folder. The root folder is fine. What I have done is I've made some subfolders just so I can quickly find things. So for me, this would be in my lists folder, and now it's in my lists folder, and it's saved. So now, once I want to go back to the game, I'll press the Games tab, go to my Workshop tab, Bushido Risen Sun 2.0 and click on it and load. And we're going to be back in the game. As you can see, all of the things I was doing with the mission and terrain and the Kumiko models, they've all been deleted because I've started a new instance of the game, so it's nice and clean. And to import my list, I'll go into Objects, Saved Objects. In my case, they'll be in lists, and you can make new folders with this button, so you can easily sort all of the items that you need. And I'm going to click on Demo Ryu, and now we can see, I'll just place them over there. And then by selecting them and dragging them and using the Q and E buttons, I can just drag them to where I need them. And I'm probably going to need some wound and key trackers, so I'm going to copy them. Let's get these models out of the way because I like having it close to the card. There we go, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3. And now I have my list ready and set up to go. And then I can do my key generation step in the first phase, and I'm a person who likes to tick down their wounds, so I'll just start with the maximum wounds. Up here 6, 6, and oh yeah, you all got 6, excellent. And now I'm ready to play the game. I can set up my models wherever the deployment may be, and we're ready to play the game. When you are the host, that's all you need to do to get a list into the game. If you are joining someone else's game or someone else is joining your game, they will not be able to import their lists that easily. What you need to do is you need to promote the player to give them this ability. How you do it is we again move our mouse to the top right. We find the player who would like to import a list, your opponent in this case. We'll click on their name, and we'll find the promote button. This doesn't exist for me as I'm already the host. I already have these privileges, but we'll just scroll down, find promote, click on promote, and then they will be able to import their list in exactly the same way, going over objects, saved objects, and finding the objects they want to import. And that's how they can get their list in. So if you can't do it for some reason, ask your opponent to promote you or host the game yourself if there are some issues. Let's see, have we covered everything? I think that looks good. So I don't want this video to run too long. It's supposed to be only a basic tutorial. So don't hesitate if there are questions to ask anything you'd like to ask on the Discord. We have a TTS mod subchannel where you can ask any questions or post feedback. For example, if something is missing, like one of the new releases, like Lord Toad, who's coming out, he's not in the mod yet. They will be coming. Don't worry about it. But you can let the mod creators know, something is broken here, or can you add that there? And if it's reasonable and doable, then they'll get round to it. Maybe the only thing I've forgotten is prayer tokens. There are some prayer tokens over here. It says prayer. So if you have a mission with 5 prayer tokens, just grab 5 of them, and then once you've used them, then maybe drag them close to your SP counter so you can keep track of how many you've done and how many you still have free. Sorry, forgot about that. But yeah. How to join a game, we could actually just quickly check that again. We're going to go to the main menu. If we want to join a game, so someone else has hosted a game, they need to send us the name and the password of the game that they've hosted, and we'll click join. And now you can already see the game is going to search up every single game in existence of every type of game. So a lot of games are run over TTS, so this is an insane way of trying to find it. It's much easier typing in the name of the game. In our case, it was Tutorial Bushido, but it's no longer open, so we won't be able to find it. Tutorial. Can I search for Bushido? Nushido is an interesting game. Bushido doesn't seem to be. Yeah, there's always some Infinity games running, so as you can see here, you would find your game and then double click. So let's say I wanted to join that, enter the password that I've been given by my opponent, and I'll join the game, ask to be promoted so I can import my list, and then off you go. Otherwise, when playing over TTS, communicate with your opponent. Use the voice channels we have on Discord. It's a great way to do it. Also shows that you're playing a game. Maybe you can get some spectators in if you'd like to help you out with rules, or if you want your friends to be able to watch you. That's a fantastic way to join as well. If you're a spectator, mute yourself unless there is a specific question to you, just so the players can play in peace, but you can watch the game. And yeah, if there are any questions, don't hesitate to ask in the Discord, and we'll try and get back to you as soon as possible and find a solution. And if there are any, problems troubleshooting, always feel free to send me a message on Discord, and I'll see how I can help you. Thank you for listening to the video, and I hope it helped you a lot. Bye.